Ben Jacobson here for Ben Jacobson Photo, and I'm just walking through the second part of my 5D Mark III initial impressions. And the first video was kind of the exterior changes, and now I wanted to walk through the menu changes. So the screen is obviously changed, the glass difference and the size difference, but then if you look at the menus, the icons here are a little smaller, but just different a little bit. And then the menus here are stretched out a little bit more because it's a wider screen. But then the other thing they do here is you can, this is the wheels up and down, and this just goes through each tab, right? So then there's 2 red tabs, 2 blue tabs, 3 yellows, an orange, and a green. So there's much fewer tabs in here. On the 3, bring the menu back up, there's a trick now where you see the different, it's the same options at the top. Red's kind of basic camera settings, then they've added autofocus, which is magenta. The playback's blue again, the basic settings are yellow with the wrench. Custom's got the camera and it's orange again, and then the star is your menu again. But what they've done is, if you go through these, you notice there's sub-tabs under each one, and there's only one settings tab, whereas here there's 3, and then little sub squares here. And then what you do is this top wheel will go through every single one after another, but there's a lot of pages now. But if you hit Q, it just steps through from like main category to main category. So it's kind of, once you learn the Q trick, it's pretty nice. This still works. And it works the same way it does here, really. It's just that there's enough more pages in the Mark III that it takes you a little while. The other thing is there are a lot more settings in the 5D Mark III, so I've found I am looking for things a little bit more, which isn't, it's not to say there's anything wrong with it, it's just that it's a new camera with more options, so the ones you're unfamiliar with, you have to look for, and they've moved some things around. The other thing to note is my menu. Here's my 2 my menus. They still won't let you scroll it. So I'm a little disappointed with that, because it's kind of like they should just give you a warning when you want to add, what do we have, 6 there. So if I added 7, it should say you're going to start scrolling this. The screen's already wider, so that would work. So they should just let me either make multiple pages of my menu or scroll it, because there's about 2 more things I would like to have on here that I've removed simply because, as I showed earlier, you can press the Q button and come in here and you can set your image quality and which card you write to. So I've left image quality here. I actually have record things here, but some of the things I moved off last night just because it was too hard. I didn't need them. I can adjust them someplace else. And actually, if we bring up menu here, I can probably figure them out. Oh, it's white balance, custom white balance, because I use them so infrequently. Mirror lockup I moved off. I left exposure comp, and the biggest thing, exposure comp, is in the Q menu. If we hop out real quick and hit Q, you can just hop up right here and get to that, right? And then here, when you go to my menu again, the one that it's buried in the menus a little bit is, here's the number of shots in a bracket. I have it set to the default of 3, but you hit that and you can go to 7 or whatever. But it's that's pretty hard to find in a hurry. The other big one I have in here right now is the number of AF points, because I don't know if I'll settle in on one and just turn this off, but I don't like all 61 points because they're not all cross points. It's kind of like, now that we have all these cross points, why do I want to deal with points that aren't cross points? 15 points. The nice thing is here, it might be, let's see, if we move this in, maybe you can see it. If you see the grid there, the outer and center vertical columns are cross types. The ones in between are not. They work pretty well, but I kind of wish, if you notice the outer column is farther apart than the 9 option below it. I kind of wish the 9 had the 3 down the middle and then the 3 on the outer set of 15. That would have been ideal for me. But I've been switching between the bottom 3 options, and honestly I've been leaving it pretty much in the all cross type ones up here, and just using it. You get used to having more clicks than the 5D in terms of getting across the frame. I also set it up, there's some tricks with your custom menus where this defaults the center point, and then this is whatever focus point you want, and then this jumps around, so you can set it up to wrap around the sides. So it's just personal preferences. But so let's get down into the menus and just go through it. Red is basically what you've seen before. Nothing fancy here. The first new one is the Magenta menu, which this is your autofocus, and the autofocus is so good and in depth here, they need a lot of options. So the first part's the cases, where they give you, 6 different cases of things they want. I've noticed with shooting kids, the excel decel value is pretty important to be not at 0. Which this is the default, and it was at 0, and my kids would be out of focus. I've switched to this, and it's worked a lot better. You can then hit the rate button and go in and tweak these to your liking, but I've been trying to stick to the cases for now just to learn them. As you get to the second and third page, it kind of sets priorities to, here's for AI servo, do you want the first image to be in focus or to be release, like just take the picture? And then the second one, once you've taken the first one, is it a priority to just get all of them in a row, or should it stop if it can't achieve focus? I use the AF on button in the back and remove focusing from the shutter, so I can just let go for that exact reason, but you can set it up here if you want. Some more options that are pretty similar, AF assist beam, all those. The other weird thing is, notice there's only 2 here and 3 there. They could have put them all on a page. I don't know why they didn't. So they're kind of giving you a lot more tabs, but they're saying this is for AI servo and that's for one shot, I guess. So then when you switch to the fourth page, you get to the points and what's selectable. And this is whether it drives when it can't, whether it keeps trying to hunt, basically, is the first one. Here's the selectable points. This is pretty cool because it tells you what options you can choose. And it's basically spot AF, so it's a smaller point, the normal point, the third one is whether you have 4 surrounding helpers or 8 surrounding helpers. Then you have zone, and then you have all points. And basically what this means is you can turn off some of those if you're never going to use them. So when you cycle through, you don't have to cycle through all 6. You can just go through the 4 you use. And the way you cycle is you press this button here, and then the MF, the manual, the the custom function button up here. So you press that, then tap that, it'll cycle through whatever your choices are. So if we go back out the menu, you then have that, and that's where it's saying how do you do it. You can either do it with, like I said, you hit that button, then the custom function button, or you can use the dial after pressing that. So it's kind of your choice. And then here's a cool one. It's orientation linked AF point, which means does it remember when you're shooting this way, does it remember, okay, I use the top center point and then flip vertical top center point for a portrait, kind of rule of thirds? Or if I use the top center point here and I rotate, does it stay left center now, if you know what I mean? So it's nice to have that option to turn it on and off. That's from the 70 and very helpful. The top one here is whether or not when you're going on your points, does it go around the end? Meaning if you're at the right side and you press right one more time, does it stop or does it go around? And then just some of your viewfinder displays. So there's lots of autofocus options here over a 5D2. And it's for the better. It's just that it's a little confusing at first because there are so many options, and it makes the autofocus do exactly what you want, but you need to know how to get it there. So I'll admit to reading the manual a little bit this time to making sure I'm getting things right on figuring some things out. So it's complicated, but in a good way. After that is your replay, which nothing's really changed here except for on 3, this is where you do your magnification size, which means when you hit the magnify button, is it no magnification, 2x, 4x, 8x, 10x, actual size, you can see what it is, and it says from selected point, which means from the AF point I used. And then the last one, which is also nice, is same as the last time. So however you set it with the wheel up here, it just remembers that, which is also another good option. So then, back out of that, onto the yellow, which are kind of like the system settings. So the cool thing here is the top one is which card gets which. You can set it to auto switch. You can set it to, I don't even know what standard does because I wanted to control it. You can set it to record separately, meaning JPEGs to one and RAWs to another, or set it to record to multiple, which means whatever you have it recording, it puts it to both cards at the same time as a protection thing. I like the auto switch option myself. Here you pick which card you're using now, and then the typical folder option. So back out of there. The other cool thing is this has the file name, which they finally, that's for BJP, for Ben Jacobson Photo. I have no idea what the 824C is. That's what it was starting to use. I don't know if those are all different or the same. But then you can go into user setting 1, which lets you set all 4 digits, and you just go in and pick. Or you go to user setting 2, which lets you set the first 3, and then like it says down here, and image size. It puts a letter back there that is the size of the image, meaning that there's a different letter for RAWs and size RAWs, stuff like that. From there, you have your typical things there. The third one, let's see here. This is where you set what your info button does. So you can. This is the screen I was talking about before. You cycle through what info shows when you're going through. I only have the level because I don't really care what's on this. It's not helpful to me. And then this one comes up with the Q button anyway, so I don't need it in 2 places. And then the 4th tab is your copyright information that you type in. So for me, it's Ben Jacobson and copyright 2012. Pretty basic. And then you come out, and then you have your orange custom functions. Pretty basic, except they're in tabs now, these little smaller ones, instead of the different way it was here. We just come over here, they were like that. So now, instead of having 4 like that, it's 4 across, which this is a better system once you get used to it. So the cool things with that is on the first one, it has a number of bracketed shots buried in here. That's where you have to remember it where it is and why I put it on my menu. And then the other really cool one is in 3, you have the default erase option, which traditionally, if we go out, and I'll show you this first. You can set it to either be canceled by default or erase by default. And now if we come out here to hit play, and it's a little twitchy. Oh, it's in HDR mode, I believe. But so here we go. So when you come and see HDR, so when you come in here and hit delete, it used to always default to cancel, and then you'd have to wheel the wheel and then hit set. And now if we come back out, I just hit delete, set, and it delete, set, delete, set, delete, set, boom. And it's much nicer. It's not quite as nice as Nikon's double delete, where you hit delete and then deletes the button you use again, but it is faster than the other one, so that's pretty nice. So if we go back into the menu, what else do we have? Just the My menu after that. And like I said before, they won't let you scroll it, which is a bit of a bummer, because I could use about 8 things on mine instead of 6. But outside of that, it's pretty nice. They let you put what you want. They let you order what you want. And then they also have at My menu settings, whether it goes straight into this. So now, like, oh, we're over here, but then it comes back to green every time, which is how I normally have it set up. I just turned that off for the review. But yeah, it's a very nice camera. The autofocus is pretty awesome. The IQ is not significantly different than the old 5D Mark II until you get to high ISOs, which isn't really that big of a surprise. It still has the banding and the shadows when you really abuse things with a lot of fill light, which was a little disappointing. I kind of wish they fixed that. Not sure on dynamic range yet. On some real brief comparisons, I am using different lenses, but they're stopped down for landscape, so it should be similar. The histogram is smaller, narrower on the 5D3, which would suggest maybe there's some more latitude there, but I don't really have a great way to measure that, so I'm sure some of the other people will come out with some crazy tests to show it. The viewfinder is very nice. It has the level in the viewfinder. It has the bigger, brighter. It's not really bigger. It's 100%, so it shows it's more accurate, but it's not bigger, really. I mean, it's a slight bit bigger. If you hold them eye to eye, kind of like a weird pair of glasses like this, you can really compare it well, and when you do that, you can see that they're almost exactly the same size. It's not really enough to worry about, but this is 100%, so what you see is what you get. This is, I think, 97, so you miss a little bit. But yeah, it's been a great camera for me so far, just an initial impression-wise. The autofocus is really the story here now, and the speed. I've accidentally taken pictures with this now because the shutter is so twitchy. Almost, but you'll get used to it. It's just after having a 5D 2 that you have to mash the button on a little bit. it's a little different. So that's kind of how the menus work. Just a brief walkthrough with it, and brief, I know it's been 15 minutes. So I hope this helps. I hope you guys can see what some of the menus do now, and it helps you just kind of sort some things out. And hopefully that's a help for you. And if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. But yeah, it is a more complicated camera because they've added a lot of options, but it's just you got to learn what they do, and it's not really overwhelming or anything. So Ben Jacobson with Ben Jacobson Photo. Thank you.